There we go. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat, and then I will also leave room for questions at the end. Lauryn Banks, is one of the coaches on Blaze 18 United. She's also one of our player development coaches. And Lo played for me for 3 years. And then we've been coaching together since 2018, 2019. So Lo's fantastic. Definitely a resource for you guys to use within the organization. If you ever need anybody, she's very friendly and easy to talk to. All right.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so like Kate said, my name is Lauren Banks. I've got a little bit more about me in my presentation, but I did just want to kind of start with a video from Coach Allie Hebbett. She was the assistant coach at Alabama for quite some time. And it's just a really good video that was shared with me about the importance of dugout culture, something that I think we can kind of skip past every now and then. So yeah, I'm gonna start us with that.
Ooh, Lo, I can't hear the audio.
Um, Sharing the screen. Maybe I won't start us with this video. um, that's okay. Just know that other people believe that dugout culture is very as important as I think it is.
I'll
So
post it in the chat so they can watch it.
yes, we will send it to you guys. So this is dugout culture, managing our players on and off of the field. So a little bit about me, like Kate said, I played select for Texas Intensity under Kate for 3 years, played a couple years at Texas Southern University here in Houston. I've been the assistant coach of Blaze United 18U. Since 2020, we've kind of fluctuated around 16s and 18s, but most recently we've kind of found our footing in 18s. And for the past 2 years, I've been an assistant coach at Episcopal High School, where this year we just won our 7th consecutive state championship and our 22nd overall. So this is our team. This is Texas Blaze United 18U. This is us in the fall at TFL. This is who we do it for. This is such an amazing group of girls. They, to me, make being an assistant coach really easy, and it makes being in the dugout really easy because these are people that I want to be around, and these are girls that I want to teach and that I want to encourage. And so I think the foundation of being able to have a good dugout culture is having a good team, and that starts kind of a ways out, but it's something that can't be ignored. And so I have a couple of hats that I wear as an assistant coach, like we all do. I work a lot with hitters. I do a lot of our pregame needs, a ton of dugout management, and sometimes I have to play therapist as well. I know that's not everybody's forte, but it is something that I do enjoy doing, and I think the girls like having me as a therapist, and so they utilize that quite a lot. And so this is something that this is a hitting on deck approach that we use every game. We've been doing it since I played for Kate. We introduce it every year to the girls. This is what we call 4 strong offense. And so 4 strong offense, it consists of 4 batters, like our first 4 batters of every inning. And so our first batter, of course, is the batter that's at the plate. They're applying the game plans that we've discussed, and they're executing, hopefully. Our second is our on deck batter. We're getting their timing down. They're deciding what pitches to attack. I find a lot of the times when our on deck batter is getting her timing down, I'll turn to her and I'll say, "Hey, this is the one. That's the pitch you should be going for." And so I think that's a really useful skill to be able to see exactly what we want to be swinging at. And then our batter that's in the hole, and our second hole, those batters are usually standing with me at the front of the dugout, watching our at bats, discussing our game plans, taking mental at bats. Sometimes our fourth hole will be somewhere maybe on a tee taking cuts, or watching their previous at bat on that we've recorded. But at all times we should have 4 batters with a helmet on. And so We use this as a way to mentally prepare ourselves, but also physically. And so we want to kind of clean up the way that we transition from batter to batter. We don't love seeing, a batter throw the bat of the previous batter. And so what we do is once somebody has hit the ball or they've made it on base or they've done anything, they've dropped the bat, the person who was in the hole now runs and gets the bat. Now the person on deck can step into the box prepared, focused, and doesn't have to worry about picking up the bat and doing all these things. And so now that all they have to do is just step up to the plate and do everything we said that we were going to do. And so that's our four strong offense. A few other tools that we use our in-game hitting tools. So we have a quab chart where I print quite a few copies of these before the season. And this chart, just to break it down for you a little bit, so the box in the middle is a strike zone. At the top, we've got our quality at bats, and then at the bottom, we've got first pitch strike and first pitch ball. And so for me, I find that this is a really good tool to keep the girls engaged. This is really good, especially maybe if you have a player that isn't in the lineup a lot, but is really engaged in the game quite often. And so what we do is our quality at bats, we have our criteria for them. So we say any one of the three pitches after two strikes, a 6+ pitch at bat, a hit by pitch, a walk, a sack, a bunt, a sack fly, and of course a hit. And so if somebody gets a quab, they get a check at the top. If we don't, we get a check at the bottom. And then when we're looking down at the bottom, first pitch strike versus first pitch ball, same thing. If somebody gets a first pitch strike, we check at the top. First pitch ball, we check at the bottom. And then the outcome zone. So where that's our last pitch of the at bat, be it a hit, be it a hit by pitch, be it a ball, a walk, anything. We want to put exactly where that pitch landed. And so these are just tools for us to kind of be able to walk through an at bat mid game. I usually don't even look at these after a game. I do keep them just in case maybe we're going to face the same pitcher again at one point. But the point of this chart is for girls to be able to say, hey, this pitcher is throwing first pitch strikes, or she's not throwing a lot of first pitch strikes. This is where she likes to finish at bats. This is where she likes to throw to us. Another tool that we use, this symbol is for an app called On App. And so this app is a coach's tool that we use. We have a designated iPad, which I know is a bit of a luxury, but sometimes even just give the girls my phone. And I let them record on it. And so on that designated iPad on this app called On App, what we do is we record each at bat. Sometimes the girls want to we record any swing in an at bat. And so maybe it's a swing and miss, maybe it's a foul ball. We keep those. If they're taking, we usually delete those, but it's just like a 3-second clip of a hit. The girls get a little carried away with the iPad sometimes, and they get a little excited, and somebody hits a home run or there's a lot of things happening. The girls will record the entire situation and they will take the iPad to the plate with them, which I'm fine with. But we use this tool as a way to watch at bats. You can zoom in, you can work it in slow motion, you can move back and forth across the app. And so this is just a really good way for the batters to be able to go back, look at their at bats, see what they did right, see what maybe they did wrong, and we can make adjustments right there. So I know that's a little bit of a luxury that everybody is not afforded, but it's a great tool. We love to use it. It's really exciting. The girls, that's another thing that in our four strong offense that sometimes I will see our fourth batter doing. Maybe she's sitting on the bucket next to me on the iPad, just watching all of her at bats, watching her results. So again, this is just another really good way to keep your girls engaged in the game, keep them locked in, but also it's just very much a leg up into an at bat that other teams aren't using. And so, along with our in-game hitting tools, we also have our hitting approaches, which we practice a lot. We practice them every day, and then we apply them every game, every at bat. You're in some kind of approach. Um, I have a document that has a lot longer of an explanation of these approaches, but just to kind of summarize them, late rhythm, we say maybe we're facing a pitcher who has a really good changeup. She throws it with two strikes, or she throws it just maybe more often than she throws her fast stuff. And so late rhythm, we want our tempo to be so late that when we're faced with fast pitches, we're able to drive them oppo. And when we're faced with a changeup, nothing changes in our tempo, nothing changes in our timing, but because we were late, now we can hit our slow stuff back up the middle. And so we never get fooled by a changeup. And so, especially as we get older, we face more competitive pitchers. We're going to see girls who maybe have a better, their changeup is their best pitch, and you have to know how to attack that. You can't say, hey, I'm not swinging at the change today. We have to know how to attack that. And that's what late rhythm does for us. Pepper, we are firm believers that a ground ball to second base can win a game. We say that all the time. And so when we're working on Pepper, this is about just, we're not looking for a grand slam. We're not looking for a home run. We're not looking for the big wow. All we need is just a little ground ball or really low line drive that we just pepper left center, right center, up the middle. And so we get really short to the ball. We're hunting specific pitches. Maybe we're going no stride and we're just looking to poke something through the infield. Nothing crazy. We're working on sit. This is something where you can sit in, out, fast, low, high, low. This is where we focus and we look at what pitchers are throwing, their sequences, how they're throwing, and then we use that information to say, hey, she's throwing mainly here, so then I need to be sitting or I need to be looking for this pitch specifically. And so that changes, of course, by each pitcher, maybe by even each inning if we find that the coaches kind of change their sequence or they've changed their pitch calling. And so that's again, these are all very flexible. We combine these systems sometimes. Sometimes we say, hey, we need to sit outside and we need to work pepper. We need to work a late rhythm pepper. These are things that we put together. It can be a little complicated and it has a lot of facets. I'm doing a very big overview of them right now. But these are approaches that we utilize every day in practice. And so then in the game, I say, hey, she's throwing this. You've got runners here. You've got runners doing this. So I need you to be sitting this pitch. And I say those words, and the girls know exactly what they mean. They know exactly what they're looking for, and then they execute from there. And then unbutton, this is probably Coach Corey Robertson's, our 16U head coach, and probably some of our players, their favorite approach. Unbutton is literally just, we're hacking. This is like the opposite of pepper. We're not losing sense of mechanics and form, but we're taking our big hacks. And I tell the girls this sometimes in certain situations. We say, hey, now's the time. Here's where we unbutton. And so there's a time and place for all of it. It it's very nuanced, but it's a great tool that we've come to utilize within the past few years. And I find that as we integrate it in our hitting, we've become a better hitting team,
And
which I really
it's in my
appreciate.
ear. Oh,
And so connecting with our players, this is kind of the point where I start to play therapist. I find that it's a little bit easier for me. I would say on the younger side, closer in age to a lot of our girls, with them being 18 mostly. And so I find that they want a lot of the time to tell me what's going on, to tell me their problems. I know that can be difficult. I know that can be different. Um, but for me, it's helped me create a relationship with the girls, a personal relationship where I can kind of tap in with them and say, hey, how are we feeling about this? How are we feeling about this? Are you ready to go in? Are you mentally okay? Are you ready to play this game? And I feel a lot of the time that my job in the dugout is to prepare them to step between the white lines where then Coach K or Coach Bree or whoever is working with us is able to utilize them. And so my job is to kind of prepare them before I send them off over to Kate. And I can recognize that maybe some teams don't have three coaches or you don't have somebody who's just designated to the dugout. I think there are definitely ways that you can connect with your players um, without having a third coach. So finding what communication styles work best for every player. And that can be difficult. We have a big team, we have a lot of girls. It's a lot of people, a lot of personalities to get to understand, but I try to find who hangs out with who's friends with who likes this, who likes that. And that's the kind of stuff that I often do in practice. And so when we come in games, I can kind of already check in with them and I know how we're feeling and what the general vibe is of the team pregame. You want to create an environment where the girls can be open and honest with you. They don't have to tell you everything. They don't have to tell you all their secrets, but you do want to say you don't want players to be injured or scared or distracted about something and for that to not be something that you are aware of. And so I've had this discussion with coaches before where they're like, my girls cry. Like we have criers on the team, and I don't know how to deal with that. We have criers, even at 18s, and it is something that we deal with. But they know I find that if I let them cry, I don't say anything, they always just kind of inch their way back over, and then we can discuss what's going on. Then maybe it was a bad at bat, maybe it's a bad game, maybe it's been a bad week. But these are you have to create an environment where your players are feel that they can be honest with you about how they feel, and then I think that way you're going to get a lot more people to buy in to those hitting approaches, to their on deck approaches, to everything. And you just have to be cognizant of what each player needs to be successful in that moment. And so that can change, of course, at the drop of a hat. But each, again, we have to check in with our girls and be connected to them in order to find what it's going to take for us to win. You're only going to play as well as you feel. And um, yeah, you're only gonna play as well as you feel. And so if girls are not focused or they're worried about something else in that moment, it can be hard. It can change a game. And so I find that again, like I said, I have to prepare them and get them ready to go and be as focused as possible before I send them off to Kate and to play. Yeah, and that's all I got. So thank you guys for listening. If you guys have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer. I'm excited to answer. If anybody wants access to the charts that we use, or you have questions about the apps that we use, feel free to ask me as well. I've got links and everything to that as well.
Yeah, I shared the video from the beginning low on the meeting chat, and then the offensive approaches document is on there too. You might be able to pull that up if you want to.
Yeah, let's see. Yes, so this is something that we actually print this out every season, and we bring this to the girls, and we like sit down pre-practice and discuss this. So this is just what the document looks like. It's got a lot more than what I said. So it takes some studying that even as coaches we have to study. I have to check back in with this sometimes. But yeah, it's in the chat. It's a great tool for anybody who wants to use it. If you guys have any questions about using it, feel free to reach out to me. I mean, we do it in high school, select everywhere. So, yeah. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I have a question, Lo. How
Sure.
long do you think, once we started using the offensive approaches, like how long do you think it took the team and the girls to buy into them and then be successful with them?
I think in terms of buy-in, the girls come in pretty open and pretty willing to understand new concepts. I think I would say it takes a few weeks of practicing them, understanding them, and then being able to get to a game and see, holy crap, this actually works. You didn't just make this up on the spot. This is a real thing. And then I think it makes the girls want to buy in to it a lot more, which I think is something that's true with probably everything, but it's something that can be executed, I think, very quickly, um, and very successfully. I don't think they're particularly difficult, but they are so important and so game changing.
And can you talk a little bit too about kind of what role, like we have pitchers and catchers primarily play in our dugout when it comes to change-ups, signs, that kind of stuff?
Yes, so we are big fans of tracking pitch sequences and picking the changeup. We can't lie about that. So we've got I have some kids that I almost feel are like designated leaders in the dugouts because a lot of the time our pitchers and catchers spend the most time in the dugout. And so they're the kids that are watching the pitch caller from the other team and saying and finding out what the changeup is going to be, which I think is a huge tool. And so when we notice that we've got somebody who throws a changeup quite often, we're like, first pitch of the game, we've got to be on it. We've got to say, hey, who's picking fights? So Kate carries a notebook with her. I carry a notebook with myself for notes. And there's always somebody sitting on a bucket with a pen and a notebook, just tracking what pitches are coming, tracking the signals for the changeup. and relaying that to their teammates. And so for us, we have a word that we say that triggers the batter, like, hey, changeup's coming, I'm working my late rhythm, I'm hitting this up the middle. Um, so our pitchers and catchers have always played a really big part in how we look at pitches and we track pitching sequences. The changeup, especially, I think it's a game changer to be able to know when it's coming. Um, and I think it's a great tool to introduce to your teams as well. So, yeah.
You touched on this briefly, but can you expand a little bit on, we've had multiple players come to us, whether it was in Blaze or high school ball, saying that they don't hit the changeup. They won't swing at the changeup. Like, what has been your response to them, and how have you combated that?
Yeah, not hitting the changeup for us is not an option. Um, I again, as we get older, we're playing 18s United, we're playing the top teams in the country. We're facing some of the most competitive pitchers in the country, and so we have to be willing to we can't just eliminate a whole pitch from our repertoire. We can't say, I'm not swinging at this pitch. And so that's why we practice these approaches so heavily during the week. And so we work on sitting changeup and we work on late rhythm so often. And so we say, hey, maybe you don't feel comfortable with it now, but we're gonna get you to that point. And in the meantime, I'm like, you gotta attack the fat. If you're not comfortable hitting the changeup well, we gotta attack the fast stuff and we got to hit it well until we can get to the point where we can hit the changeup consistently and with confidence. And so again, that's where using those approaches so often in practice, almost every day in practice, comes in handy for us. And so saying I can't hit the changeup kind of becomes a non-option for us by the time we get to season and by the time we're playing.
Yeah, we had a player, she just graduated from our high school team, but Lo specifically worked with her junior and senior year, and freshman and sophomore year. She was super hesitant to swing at anything slow. And she's a strong kid. She can hit changeups out of the park. A lot of our girls can. And so eliminating a whole pitch, like Lo said, is just a hindrance to you and a huge advantage to the pitcher. But we saw this from like working the approaches that Lo's talking about, from being able to kind of read signs, read grips and things like that. Her batting average jump over 200 points, and she ended up setting the single season home run record, and the career home run record. And I would bet you probably 25% of those home runs were on changeups. So it is, sometimes you do have to kind of fight a little bit of a barrier to get, as you guys as coaches know. But we've seen it, really help kids grow and get out of their comfort zone and be more prepared for the college level.
Yeah, and I think that goes a lot to being able to get the girls to trust you, to say, hey, if you work these game plans, if you buy into the situation, if you buy into practicing, I'll stay after practice with you and hit. I'll give you drills to do to work on this. Getting the girls to trust you and understand you, then they get excited to hit the changeup. They get excited to attack pitches that they didn't feel comfortable about before. So you have to pour into them and show them that it's something that you believe they can do. And I think especially with teenage girls, I think that's half the battle is people believing in them. And so, yeah, like Kate said, I started working with this hitter and seeing her confidence grow between last season and this season has just been amazing. And again, it takes pouring into them and pouring confidence into them, which is something I think we can all do.
So for those people who maybe, are wondering how you work on these approaches, you want to talk to them a little bit about what our offensive setup looks like in practice?
So for practice, we'll do a lot of hitting rotations, which is nice for us because we have such a great facility that we practice at. But I think this is something that can kind of be done no matter where you are, so long as you've got a field. And so what we do is, a lot of the time, we've got either front toss or we've got live or we're going off of machine on the field. We've got girls working on the side, working on bunting. We've got some girls who are working on tees, excuse me, who are working on tees, working on approaches. And then we've got where we practice, we have a separate set of hitting cages. But again, this is something that I think you can do even off of tees, or side toss or anything, where we work mainly approaches. And so for at least in high school, we were able to kind of get a scouting report on every pitcher before we played them weekly. And so I would say we'd discuss who we were going to be facing what kind of pitching we'd be facing. When I'd go to the cages, I'd say, hey, in this cage, we're working this approach to work on this hitter, to work on this pitcher. And in this cage, we're working on this approach in case we face this pitcher. And so a lot of it is doing your research. Of course, in the summer, you don't know who you're going to be playing. And so we practice 2 nights a week. And so we try to kind of split up our approaches, split up how we attack things through the week. Um, yeah, so I worked really heavily all season in our cages, just working front toss, working approaches, and really making them hold themselves accountable for those approaches. So if you do it right, you can stay in. If you do it wrong, or I think you're not focused, you have to get out, go to the next station and work on tees. Maybe you have to do burpees, maybe you have to do push-ups, but it's just reiterating the importance of the approaches to our players. And it gets to the point again where they execute and you don't have to punish people, or you don't have to, they can stay, you have to kick them out of their cage because they're taking up too much time because they're doing so well. And so we usually do a pretty big hitting rotation, um, especially because we have so many girls that practice with us in the summer. But I think that you can integrate the approaches and how you work no matter where you are. If you've got a cage, if you've got a field, if you've all you've got is a tee and a net, I think that there is a way to integrate these approaches to your practices.
And can you talk a little bit too about how you like to emphasize the process versus the result and kind of how these approaches help with that, you know?
Yes, we talk about this a lot on our team's process versus result. We say this going into games sometimes. We say maybe we feel maybe we're a little outmatched, maybe we're down a few players, who knows? But it's again, I can't stress the importance of getting things done at practice. And so we say it's about process. You know you've worked hard, you know you've focused on the right things, you know you've practiced the correct things. I'm gonna value you using these approaches or being locked in, being mentally here. I'm gonna value that over being successful because I do think if you're working your process correctly, the success will come regardless. And so maybe I say, hey, I need a sitting an outside pitch. And everybody's sitting this outside pitch and they're driving it right side. They're hitting hard hit balls right side and they're just going at people. I can't be mad at players for working the process, doing what I'm telling them, and them still getting out. And then maybe not scoring people. Now we can adjust and we can work to do something else. But again, I have to show them that I see that they're working the process. I appreciate them doing it. Now let's make an adjustment and make something work for us. And so I find that now if somebody has not done the process correctly, they're not focused, they're not locked in, then of course that's an issue. But when I see people who are trying to do the right thing, I can see what they're thinking in the box, I can see how they're trying to execute. You have to commend them for that. And I think a lot of that comes from you have to verbally commend them and tell them, I see what you're thinking. I like what you were trying to do. Let's do this instead. Let's get this to work. And so we do talk a lot with our girls about process over results because when you're working the process correctly, the results will come for you.
Yeah, we had a situation in our state semifinal game last weekend where we were tied 5-5 going into the sixth inning with in a game where I think we all felt as if we had played a lot better than they had, but the result wasn't showing it. And then in the sixth inning, we hit like Low had people in approaches. They executed their approaches and hit three lasers at right at the second baseman, right at the third baseman, and I think right at right field, but just on the nose, absolutely executed the approach and didn't get the result. And I've seen other teams when they don't have an approach, maybe, or they don't know how important just working the process is, kind of lose confidence in that situation. But Lowe found a way to celebrate them, even though we didn't get the result that we wanted. To celebrate the fact that they were locked into the approach, they did execute the approach. Sometimes the ball just doesn't go where you want it to go, right? And then the next inning, we ended up coming out and scoring 3 runs and winning 8-5. And I thought, to me, that was kind of when I felt like I knew we were going to win state because when, it's easy to get down and frustrated in those situations, but they were so bought into the approaches and had so much confidence in what Coach Lowe was giving them that they knew if they just stuck to it, eventually the ball was going to find a way to fall.
Yes.
I think that's because our sport is so frustrating, right? Such a game of failure. So you can find ways to celebrate a line drive right at a second baseman, it'll give the kids more confidence.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the kind of dugout culture that you have to cultivate. And so, when that happens, our girls are still going crazy. The game is tied. We think we should be winning. We want to win this game. The girls are going crazy. It doesn't look like we're tied. It doesn't look like we're losing. And that's the kind of culture that we have to work to cultivate. And it's not always easy. The girls don't pick their teammates. They don't decide who's going to be on the team. But we have to find a way to get everybody to be excited for everybody. Working the process. And so, like Keith said, that's when I knew we were going to win because the girls were so excited. It didn't look like we had 3 up, 3 down within 6 to 7 pitches. It looked like we were winning the game.
Alrighty, coaches, any questions for us? I will post this offensive approaches explanations in the group me. I'll post the video and I will post the recorded link. But now's your time to pick the genius Coach Lowe's brain if you've got any.
Using genius very loosely.
All right, guys, happy Mother's Day. Thank y'all for joining us. Coach Lowe, thank you for giving us your time. And hope to see all you Blaze coaches soon. So Lowe and I are in Houston. We practice Tuesday, Wednesdays in Bel Air at Episcopal High School. Our practices are open. If you guys are ever interested, if you want to come out, if players want to come out, you're more than welcome to join. If you ever want to set a practice, just reach out to us. We would love to come and help. And we do have other United practices in San Antonio and Austin. So if there's anything we can do to help you guys, just let us know. We'd like to get to see as many Blaze faces as possible. So please use us as needed. All righty. Thank you, Lo.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.